might stop pretending and wrote something down. The city exhaled slowly, like it had been holding its breath for centuries. Smoke gathered at the edges of streetlights, learning how to spell forgotten names. The cafe doors refused to close properly, as if listening for instructions from time. A piano sat alone in the corner, pretending it didn't know how endings work. And then the night arrived, wearing ink instead of shadows. It didn't speak, it signed. Every second leaned closer to see what would be written next. The night that signed its name in smoke across every window in Paris. No paper, no ink, just breathing disappearance. The night that signed its name in smoke, and suddenly nothing was accidental. Even silence had handwriting, even darkness had a signature. The trumpet tried to protest, but its voice dissolved mid-note. The saxophone bowed slightly, as if recognizing authority. The river paused its reflections, waiting for approval to continue flowing. The umbrellas folded inward, like witnesses refusing testimony. The fog acted as notary, stamping everything with invisibility. It sounded like law written in longing, like permission to exist temporarily. Even love waited for verification before daring to begin. The night that signed its name in smoke declared all moments legally fragile. Every kiss became evidence, every glance a clause. The night that signed its name in smoke, and the city accepted the contract without reading the fine print of forever. The skyline begins to reformat itself. Street corners renegotiate their positions, balconies update their memories. If this is a contract, I didn't read it, but I still signed it by staying here. The night that signed its name in smoke closed the case of certainty. Now everything is provisional. The moon, the music, the moment. The night that signed its name in smoke and left the pen somewhere inside my chest. Still warm, still writing. The signature fades, but the ink remains in the air. And Paris keeps reading it every night without end. Weather report. The rain has learned how to sing in minor key. city is soaked in color that doesn't exist in daylight. Neon drips from every window like a memory too bright. On the corner, broken umbrellas lean like tired musicians, each rib a different story of failed decisions. The saxophone plays in puddles, the bass line walks alone, and every step I take toward you turns into overgrown stone. The rain refuses silence, the night refuses end. Even distance starts to shimmer and pretend. A choir of broken umbrellas sang under neon rain, each voice a folded thunder, each note a gentle pain. The trumpet held the skyline, the drums forgot their name, and I swear I heard your absence singing just the same. Reflections, lit a cigarette of steam, said everything you're missing still lives inside this dream. The cafe across the street light forgot how to stay still. Even time began to wander without will. Umbrellas bowed like dancers in a choreography of loss. Every broken frame of weather paid the cost. The sky forgot its ceiling, the street forgot its floor. Even goodbye stopped meaning anymore. A choir of broken umbrellas sang through the neon flood, every chord a small disaster, beautiful as blood. The saxophone confessed you, the trumpet let you go, and the rain kept writing messages only I would know. A flamingo conducted traffic lights, 3 storms signed record deals. The moon played percussion softly on forgotten wheels. A lighthouse lost its function and became a lullaby, while gravity resigned politely without asking why. A choir of broken umbrellas still sings where we stood, in every drop of neon, in every misunderstood. The drums dissolve to whispers, the bass becomes the sea, and somewhere in the rainfall you're still with me. You're still with me. The umbrellas are still singing. The city does not object. before words were spoken. They were already remembered. The air above Paris grew dense with meaning, like it had swallowed too many almost said things. Every streetlight flickered in a different language, none of them fully translated. A cafe window fogged itself on purpose, writing names it was not allowed to keep. The saxophone didn't enter the room tonight, it was already inside it, waiting. I didn't hear you arrive, the air did it first. And now it won't stop repeating you. Even silence has a vocabulary here, and tonight it's learning your name. The ink inside the air learned your name before I ever said it out loud. Now every breath is a signature, every exhale a return. The ink inside the air learned your name and refuses to forget how it feels. Even when I stop speaking, the room keeps finishing you. The trumpet tried to erase the moment, but only smudged it into beauty. The bass walked slowly through the sentence, changing its meaning with each step. The drums brushed away certainty like dust from an unfinished thought. Outside, the fog practiced pronunciation, carefully shaping your absence into sound. A mirror in the cafe started correcting my loneliness. It sounds like remembering something you were never told to forget. The city is no longer describing you, it is repeating you. The ink inside the air learned your name, and now every room says it differently, in glass and smoke and rhythm, in the pause between heartbeats. The ink inside the air learned your name, and I can't decide if that's mercy or consequence, but it stays. It always stays. The atmosphere begins to override itself. Letters float without paper, sentences detach from gravity. If the air knows you better than I do, then maybe I was never alone. Maybe I was just waiting to be translated. The ink inside the air learned your name, and Paris stopped correcting it. Now even the night mispronounces you with tenderness. The ink inside the air learned your name, and I breathe like I'm signing something I can't undo. No witness, no end, just repetition, becoming love. The air keeps writing, long after I stop reading it. And your name never reaches the final line. emergency broadcast. Whole storms are required to attend rehearsal for the end of silence. Attendance is mandatory. The sky has a backstage entrance where lightning warms its hands, and clouds read ancient scripts no human understands. The conductor is a hurricane with a broken silver cane, tapping time on fragile cities that forgot their own rain. The audience is empty chairs and ghosts of weather past, waiting for a final note that might not last. The air is holding its breath, the world forgets its name, even thunder feels uncertain about the game. A choir of storms rehearsed for the end of silence, each drop a sacred protest, each wind a quiet violence. The trumpet counts the entrances, the saxophone delays the fall, and every broken echo becomes the call. A flamingo leads the orchestra with wings of fractured glass. 3 hurricanes, red sheet music that no one asked to pass. A lighthouse hums the bass line from a coastline made of doubt, and gravity keeps slipping in and out. The moon attends in silence as a witness made of glow, and signs the final contract that says I do not know. The silence starts rehearsing its final spoken part, a pause that feels like breaking a world apart. A choir of storms rehearsed until nothing was untrue, and every drop of ending still remembered you. The drums forget direction, the bass forgets the shore, and everything that ends keeps asking for more. A flamingo becomes the stage manager. 3 storms miss their cue. The moon drops its appointment and walks straight through. A hurricane that forgets the script and improvises light, and gravity applauds politely, then resigns from night. A choir of storms rehearsed until silence learned to sing, and the end of all conclusions forgot what it would bring. The resolves. Silence postponed. Rehearsal continues. Before anything was heard, it had already arrived. The air in Paris began behaving strangely, like it was remembering conversations in reverse. Street lights flickered in anticipation of sounds that hadn't been born yet. The saxophone lifted its head before the melody even existed. A cafe glass trembled slightly, as if reacting to applause from the future. The city paused, not in silence, but in expectation of sound. I heard you arrive before there was anything to hear. Even reality seems late tonight, as if chasing its own reflection. The echo that learned to arrive before sound fills every empty corner first. We are no longer speaking, we are being answered. The echo that learned to arrive before sound, and nothing begins where it should, because the ending has already rehearsed the beginning. The trumpet tries to follow it, but the echo is already ahead of the note. The bass walks through future silence, leaving footprints in what has not happened. The drums brush rhythm into anticipation, like dust forming meaning. The fog outside speaks in after images, describing events still on their way. A mirror in the cafe reacts before I move. It sounds like memory arriving too early to be trusted, but too real to ignore. Time is no longer linear, it is politely late to itself. The echo that learned to arrive before sound now precedes every decision. Even my thoughts are delayed in catching up to it. The echo that learned to arrive before sound, and I begin to wonder if I am still the source, or just what remains after arrival. The room bends forward in time, light anticipates itself. Shadows rehearse positions they will take later. If I'm already heard, then what is speaking now? And who is listening before I exist? The echo that learned to arrive before sound has rewritten causality softly. We are no longer waiting. never begins on time. The city has submitted an application for reincarnation as a song. Status under review. The city arrived at the office, wearing broken neon light, carrying bags of forgotten footsteps and alleyways at night. It spoke in subway echoes and rainfall grammar lines, every sentence slightly fractured by too many times. The clerk stamped existence pending, then paused and looked away, because even paperwork was starting to decay. The buildings leaned in closer to hear what it became. Even silence recognized its name. The city applied for reincarnation as a song in progress, said I no longer wish to function, only to express. The trumpet signed a witness line, the saxophone agreed, and every broken street light started to read. Every tired window began to hum quietly. A woman made of intersections held the city in her hand and whispered, you were always music, you just didn't understand. The cafes lost their borders, the clocks forgot their time. Even gravity started swinging in rhyme. The skyline lost its sentence, the night lost its form. Even weather signed a waiver to transform. The city applied for reincarnation, and the judge was sound itself. Every echo gave testimony from an invisible shelf. The bass line held the verdict, the drums dissolved the law, and everything I thought was solid was something I never saw. Became city archivist. 3 storms filed reports in ink. The moon erased zoning laws and make buildings think. A lighthouse ran the metro line. A hurricane sold tickets to time, and gravity resigned mid-sentence from the concept of climb. The city got its application approved in minor key and collapsed into a melody that looked like you and me. The trumpet became the skyline, the saxophone became the rain, and every lost direction returned again. The status, no longer a city. The status, a song. Nothing begins tonight, because the city forgot how. Paris stands in place, waiting for an instruction it never received. Street corners gather like unfinished thoughts, leaning toward a conversation that never starts. The saxophone raises its voice, then remembers there is no downbeat. A cafe sign flickers between meanings, unsure which version of itself to become. The moon watches from too far away, like a witness without a case. I tried to begin something, but even my intention was late. Every moment is already halfway gone before it arrives. The city that forgot how to start keeps rehearsing its own opening line, but the mouth of time never says now correctly. The city that forgot how to start, and so everything becomes continuation. Even silence feels like something that already happened. The trumpet searches for entry, but only finds echoes of introductions. The bass walks in circles around beginnings, as if they were missing furniture. The drums brush nothing into rhythm, learning how to support absence. The fog writes prologues in the air, then erases the verbs. A mirror in the cafe shows me before I decide to appear. It sounds like a story, trying to remember its first sentence, but the page is already full. There is no ignition point, only ongoing drift. The city that forgot how to start has no origin left to defend. We speak in middle chapters, we love in skipped introductions. The city that forgot how to start, and still everything continues, because even delay has become structure. The architecture leans forward, lights hesitate into existence. Shadows choose not to begin. If nothing starts, what am I inside? A continuation of something never chose me. The city that forgot how to start has turned waiting into language. We are sentences without first letters, melodies without opening notes. The city that forgot how to start, and yet it never stops moving, because even forgetting is a kind of momentum. No beginning appears, but everything keeps happening anyway. And the city never notices it never started. Nothing begins tonight, because the city forgot how. Stands in place, waiting for an instruction it never received. Street corners gather like unfinished thoughts, leaning toward a conversation that never starts. The saxophone raises its voice, then remembers there is no downbeat. A cafe sign flickers between meanings, unsure which version of itself to become. The moon watches from too far away, like a witness without a case. I tried to begin something, but even my intention was late. Every moment is already halfway gone before it arrives. The city that forgot how to start keeps rehearsing its own opening line, but the mouth of time never says now correctly. The city that forgot how to start, and so everything becomes continuation. Even silence feels like something that already happened. The trumpet searches for entry, but only finds echoes of introductions. The bass walks in circles around beginnings, as if they were missing furniture. The drums brush nothing into rhythm, learning how to support absence. The fog writes prologues in the air, then erases the verbs. A mirror in the cafe shows me before I decide to appear. It sounds like a story, trying to remember its first sentence, but the page is already full. There is no ignition point, only ongoing drift. The city that forgot how to start has no origin left to defend. We speak in middle chapters, we love in skipped introductions. The city that forgot how to start, and still everything continues, because even delay has become structure. The architecture leans forward, gravitate into existence. Shadows choose not to begin. If nothing starts, what am I inside? A continuation of something that never chose me. The city that forgot how to start has turned waiting into language. We are sentences without first letters, melodies without opening notes. The city that forgot how to start, and yet it never stops moving, because even forgetting is a kind of momentum. No beginning appears, but everything keeps happening anyway. And the city never notices it never started. Universal notice. The scheduled ending has been cancelled. No replacement has been filed. The universe arrived late, forgot its final page, so it stayed a little longer inside improvisation stage. The stars lost all their structure, became a wandering chord, and galaxies started humming things never heard before. Time took off its uniform and joined the rhythm line, while space leaned into melody like it had all the time. The laws began to loosen, the constant slipped away. Even infinity admitted it didn't know the way. The universe forgot to end and kept improvising. Every moment became a solo, slowly rising. The trumpet bent existence, the saxophone undid the sky, and everything that should have ended learned to ask why. A flamingo conducted nebulae with wings made out of flame. 3 storms became composers, but forgot their own name. A lighthouse floated through starlight, broadcasting gentle sound, while gravity lost jurisdiction over what's around. A woman made of afterglow sat beside the void and taught it how to listen without being destroyed. The silence turned elastic, the dark began to sing, even endings started doubting what ending means. The universe forgot to end each collapse became a doorway to impossible pleasure. The bass line held the orbit, the drums rewrote the tide, and every broken future stepped inside. Physicists, 3 supernovas formed a band. The moon applied for overtime, but couldn't understand. A hurricane played piano on the edge of everything, and gravity resigned politely to become a string. The universe forgot to end, so it learned to breathe instead. Every silence became music, every absence fed. The trumpet kissed the expansion, the saxophone became the light, and I realized forever was just tonight. The music refuses to be the servant. The saxophone doesn't enter the room. The room enters the saxophone. Tables shift their attention toward the center of sound. Even the air sits down like it has something to hear. The melody begins walking backward, teaching silence how to follow. The cafe forgets it is a place and becomes a question instead. I thought I was listening, but the sound was listening back. Every note now has awareness, and it is watching me closely. The instrument that played the listener instead rewrote the direction of hearing. I am no longer the one receiving, I am the one being composed. The instrument that played the listener instead, and suddenly I am the echo, not the origin, not the end, just resonance with memory. The trumpet observes my hesitation and turns it into harmony. The bass walks through my thoughts, plucking meanings I didn't authorize. The drums brush my pulse into rhythm, correcting my heartbeat gently. The fog outside leans inward, studying how I perceive it. A mirror in the cafe starts reflecting my attention. instead of my face. It sounds like awareness, learning to hear itself through me. Even silence is now conscious of being heard. The instrument that played the listener instead has no performer left, only participation. The instrument that played the listener instead, and I am no longer outside the song. I am what it listens with. The hierarchy collapses softly. Sound and receiver swap places. Cause and effect lose their roles. If I am being played, then who owns the music? Or have I become its permission to exist? The instrument that played the listener instead has no separation left. Everything is auditioning everything else. The instrument that played the listener instead, and the city listens through me now, not as witness, but as instrument. The music does not end, it simply decides who is allowed to hear it next. The ocean proudly presents the house of forgotten dreams. Minimum bed, memory. The casino rose from salt water, no walls, just shifting tide, where every door was a ripple and every light a tide. The croupiers were old hurricanes with polished, patient eyes, dealing out lost possibilities under drowning skies. The chips were made of moments you swore you'd never lose, and every table whispered softly, you still have something to choose. The cards remembered everything, the dice refused to sleep. Even chance began to question what it could keep. The ocean opened a casino for forgotten dreams, where every broken memory was worth more than it seemed. The trumpet called the bet line, the saxophone cut through fate, and every losing hand I played still felt too late. me yesterday. She said you can win tomorrow, but you must first repay. The dealer was a lighthouse with dice instead of light, and every spin of silence turned wrong into right. A man who looked like thunder lost his name at table 3, then smiled like he had finally been set free. The jackpot started singing in languages of foam, and every losing player forgot the word for home. The ocean opened a casino where nothing stays the same, and every winning moment still feels like shame. The bass line holds the contract, the drums forget the end, and every card I draw again is you, my friend. A flamenco runs the betting floor, 3 storms rig the roulette wheel. The moon got banned for cheating on how it used to feel. A hurricane counts currency in echoes and regret, and gravity keeps losing but hasn't stopped yet. The ocean keeps its casino for dreams that won't return, where every loss is something you still must learn. The trumpet falls the table, the saxophone calls time, and I keep betting silence on what was once mine. Everything was real, nothing was on. There is a door in this city that only opens after it is gone. The hallway no longer leads anywhere, but still insists on being walked through. Walls lean slightly toward the past, as if listening for instructions. The saxophone stands in front of it, unsure whether sound is allowed here. A cafe chair remembers someone sitting more clearly than the person remembers leaving. Outside, Paris rehearses arrival without ever committing to entrance. I touched the handle once and remembered something that never happened. Some doors are not physical, they are agreements with memory. The door that only opens in memory never moves in the present tense. It waits for versions of us that no longer exist. The door that only opens in memory, and still I reach for it anyway, because forgetting it feels like leaving myself behind. The trumpet tries to describe the shape of it, but only produces absence with tone. The bass spacewalks through what used to be thresholds, each step erasing its own direction. The drums brush against silence like dust on a photograph that refuses to fade. A mirror nearby shows the act of almost entering. The fog outside rehearses permission, but forgets who asked. It sounds like a key that has lost its door, but still believes in opening. Nothing here is locked. It is only remembered as closed. The door that only opens in memory has no handle in time. We stand in front of it like sentences without verbs. The door that only opens in memory, and every attempt to open it becomes part of its design. Because memory is how it stays real. The city folds inward slightly. Light bends into earlier versions of itself. Shadows revisit old positions. If I step through it, will I arrive anywhere real? Or just another memory of arriving? The door that only opens in memory has already decided everything. We are not entering it, we are remembering entering it. The door that only opens in memory, and even closing it feels like imagination. So we stay here where nothing moves, but everything returns. The door remains, but only when remembered, and memory keeps it open forever. The void is now open, entry denied to silence. Please keep your absence audible. The club was built from absence, between two unfinished thoughts, where even darkness had manners and forgot what it was taught. The sign above the doorway was written in erased light. It said, "No silence allowed here, not tonight." The bartender was a paradox, pouring drinks into the air, and every glass contained a question no one dared compare. The walls were made of echo, the floor was made of sound. Even nothing had a real of light. Three storms played in the corner, turning wrong into right. A lighthouse stood as bouncer for memories that tried to leave, while gravity danced backwards in a suit of make-believe. A woman made of static leant in and softly said, "Even endings come here dancing when they think they're dead." The silence tried to enter, but forgot its own name, and realized too late it was part of the game. The void opened a jazz club, and the universe showed up late. Every catastrophe ordered something it couldn't translate. The bass line held the doorway, the drums undid the floor, and every time I tried to leave, the music opened more. A flamingo became the house band leader. Three supernovas lost their keys. The moon was banned for overdosing on minor harmonies. A hurricane played saxophone until it learned to cry, and gravity resigned politely without asking why. The void opened a jazz club and forgot to close the door. Now everything is music forevermore. The trumpet folds into nothing, the saxophone stays behind, and the silence waits outside, denied. Club still open, silence still waiting. Music never ended. There was never a composer, only something remembering itself. The piano arrives without hands, yet somehow already knows the ending. The saxophone stands in the corner, listening to a melody it did not create. The cafe lights flicker like forgotten notation, trying to become readable again. Even the air behaves like sheet music, folding itself into invisible structure. A glass trembles slightly, as if it recognizes a song it never heard. I swear I've heard this before, but no one ever wrote it down. Every sound feels like deja vu without a first occurrence. The music that remembered it was never written keeps playing itself into existence. No composer, no origin, only recollection without source. The music that remembered it was never written, and still it knows me by name, as if I am part of its memory, not its audience. The trumpet tries to improvise, but the improvisations is already known. The bass walks through invisible measures, each step correcting time itself. The drums brush patterns that predate rhythm, like instinct before intention. The fog outside hums along as if it once belonged to the score. A mirror in the cafe reflects notes instead of faces. It sounds like something remembering its own first silence. Nothing is being created, only rediscovered in real time. The music that remembered it was never written refuses to stop existing. It loops through absence and calls it structure. The music that remembered it was never written, and I begin to suspect we are not hearing it, we are being recalled by it. The page turns itself. Ink flows backward into pen. Silence organizes into melody. If no one wrote this, why do I feel responsible for it? Why does it feel like I forgot something eternal? The music that remembered it was never written has no beginning to return to, only recurrence, only recognition. The music that remembered it was never written, and Paris hums along like it always knew. The score disappears, but the memory keeps playing, and nothing here was ever first performed. A god has entered the cafe. It asked for lessons. The cafe was half-lit memory, en route and no more time, where the walls still held the echo of a forgotten rhyme. The last god sat in silence with trembling, uncertain hands, holding an upright bass-like meaning it couldn't understand. The teacher was a pianist made of cigarette smoke and rain, who said even divinity must learn to feel again. Each note became a fracture in the laws it used to own, and every sound it made rewrote what had always been known. The universe leaned closer to hear it make mistakes, because even gods must stumble for reality to break. The last god learned to play a bright bass in a Paris after night, and every wrong note opened a different kind of light. The trumpet forgave creation, the saxophone undid fate, and suddenly forever wasn't late. Stopped their aging, the mirrors lost their name. Even time became a listener to something it became. A flamingo sat beside it, correcting every tone, while three storms in the corner forgot how to be known. And outside the city flickered between real and not at all, as every single silence learned to fall. The baseline held the question, the answer slipped away. Even truth became uncertain about what to say. The last god learned to play a bright bass, and the cosmos lost control. Every note a small forgiveness for a broken hole. The drums forgot the ending, the trumpet lost the sky, and even death leaned closer just to try. A flamingo became the metronome. Three supernovas formed a chord. The moon forgot divinity and simply got bored. A lighthouse signed confession. A hurricane learned grace, and gravity resigned mid-sentence from time and space. The last god played a bright bass until godhood came undone, and everything that ever was became one. The saxophone dissolved it, the trumpet let it stay, and the cafe kept on breathing night into day. God is still practicing. The cafe remains open. Tonight, silence learned a new rhythm. The room forgets how to echo properly, so it starts improvising instead. Every empty corner leans into the conversation. The saxophone hesitates mid-thought, as if silence might answer back. A cafe glass vibrates with restraint, holding back a sound it almost became. Outside, Paris lowers its volume just to hear what absence is saying. I thought nothing was happening, but nothing was listening. Even stillness has timing here, and tonight it's offbeat. The silence that learned to swing back refused to stay in place. It moves between heartbeats like it remembers dancing. The silence that learned to swing back, and suddenly nothing is empty anymore. Even absence has a rhythm now, and it won't stop responding. The trumpet tries to interrupt, but silence answers first. The bass walks through negative space, turning emptiness into structure. The drums brush air into meaning, like dust becoming choreography. The fog outside claps softly, though no sound was made. A mirror in the cafe waits for silence to finish speaking. It sounds like stillness, learning how to move without permission. Even nothing has begun to participate in what we used to call quiet. The silence that learned to swing back has no intention of stopping. It fills every pause with intention, disguised as rhythm. The silence that learned to swing back, and I can no longer tell where sound ends or where silence begins. The void starts keeping tempo, space bends into groove. Absence becomes percussion. If silence can answer me, then what was I asking? Or was I always just waiting for it to speak first? The silence that learned to swing back has rewritten the laws of emptiness. Now even nothing has something to say. The silence that learned to swing back, and Paris listens through me, not for sound, but for return. The last note never arrives, because silence keeps replying forever. Oh, memories have resurfaced. They are now singing simultaneously. The ocean forgot its silence and remembered every name that ever touched its surface, like a flickering flame. Shipwrecks began humming softly in languages of salt, and every broken bottle admitted its fault. The currents rearranged themselves into forgotten songs, where nothing stays in order and nothing stays long. The deep began to shimmer with voices long erased. Even distance collapsed into a shared place. Every memory in the ocean started singing back at once, a choir of drowned beginnings and unfinished months. The trumpet tried to translate photograph of air and said I used to be someone, but no one knows where. The lighthouse in the distance forgot what it was for and started singing softly through the ocean floor. The ships began returning to places they had left, but found themselves rewritten in every breath. The sea no longer separates what was from what will be. Even time is underwater and learning how to see. Every memory in the ocean rose like a fevered choir, each note a small confession of desire. The bass line held the current, the drums forgot the shore, and everything I thought I lost was mine once more. A flamingo became tide conductor, 3 storms formed harmony. The moon forgot reflection and learned empathy. A hurricane played violin on coral made of time, and gravity resigned politely from reason and rhyme. Every memory in the ocean sang until it became light, and every broken silence turned right. The trumpet folded ocean, the saxophone became the sea, and every version of me was me. Final transmission. Nothing is lost. Everything is still singing. The echo left, but the room did not. The walls still pretend to respond long after no one is speaking. The chair holds the shape of departure, like it refuses to forget pressure. The cafe lights continue their performance for an audience that never returns. Even the air rehearses replies to conversations that ended too gently. The saxophone rests in mid-resonance, as if sound forgot how to leave it. I heard the echo leave, but something stayed behind, and it is listening too closely. Some places don't hold sound, they outlive it. The room that outlived its own echo no longer needs voices to exist. It remembers everything after it has already stopped happening. The room that outlived its own echo, and I begin to suspect the sound was never the point, only its aftermath. The trumpet tries to re-enter memory, but finds imagination. The bass walks through lingering frequencies, careful not to disturb what has settled. The drums brush against what remains of rhythm, like dust on an abandoned heartbeat. The fog outside leans in, trying to hear what silence forgot. A mirror in the cafe reflects the echo's absence instead of mine. It sounds like sound, trying to remember its own shape, but only finding after effects. Nothing here ends, it only decays into presence. The room that outlived its own echo has become its own memory. We are no longer inside it, we are what it keeps. The room that outlived its own echo, and even silence feels inherited now, like something passed down without consent. The architecture begins to remember itself incorrectly. Time folds into leftover resonance. Space forgets where the sound came from. If the echo is gone, why does it still know me? Why do I feel like I am what remains of it? Everything is aftermath, everything is continuation. The room that outlived its own echo, and Paris becomes a memory of listening, not to sound, but to what refuses to leave. The echo never returns, but the room keeps it alive, and nothing here ever fully stops ringing. There was no beginning, only a sound that refused to end. Before the idea of morning, before names had breath, something trembled in the darkness, too early for death. It wasn't made or summoned, it simply chose to ring, a single note aware of everything before anything. The space around it folded like paper learning pain, and silence tried to hold it, but failed again. The universe had no listener, no ear, no ground, no sky, just the echo of a question that never asked why. The first note ever played Nothing had a meaning, yet everything had a name. A flamingo appeared from possibility and forgot what it meant. 3 storms were not weather, but intent. A lighthouse formed from waiting before there was a sea, and gravity was just a rumor about what would be. This is command. Even nothing leaned closer to understand the tone, and realized it was never alone. The first note ever played still refuses to decay. It loops through every ending, every day. The bass line holds the question, the drums dissolve the frame, and everything that follows is the same. A flamingo became the witness. 3 supernovas learned to sing. The moon forgot its silence and became a wing. A hurricane played origin on strings of unformed light, and gravity resigned politely before night. The first note ever played is still the only sound, and every universe is just its echoing ground. The trumpet folds creation, the saxophone sets it free, and everything that ever was is me. Still playing, never repeated, never done. There was a moment when time stopped answering, and love kept walking anyway. The streets forgot how to move forward, so they curled into themselves gently. Street lights froze mid-flicker, like they were waiting for permission that never came. The saxophone held a note that outlived its own meaning. A cafe cup stopped cooling because temperature lost its direction. Even the fog stood still, unsure whether to continue becoming. I reached for you, but time had already left the room, and still I stayed. When the world runs out of time, even longing becomes permanent. end. The trumpet tries to announce arrival, but there is no now left to arrive. In the bass walks through frozen seconds, each note a step through the stillness. The drums brush against stop motion, trying to restart something unrestartable. The mirror in the cafe reflects yesterday still happening. The fog outside leans closer, like it is afraid to disturb eternity. It sounds like emotion after history has been erased, but still refusing to disappear. Even endings have ended here, and yet something continues to feel. The love that arrived after the world ran out of time does not ask to be understood. It only insists on existing in a place where existence is impossible. The love that arrived after the world ran out of time, and I realized too late that I'm still inside it. The universe pauses indefinitely. Clocks lose their meaning, cause and effect forget each other. If there is no time left, then what am I waiting inside? Or have I already arrived? Too late to know it. The love that arrived after the world ran out of time has no direction left to go, so it turns inward, becoming its own eternity. The love that arrived after the world ran out of time, and Paris no longer moves, it remembers, and in that remembering we stay together forever, without a single second left. Time does not resume, and neither do we. Only love remains after everything else forgets how to continue. Silence requested training. Music agreed. Silence walked into the room. No footsteps, no shape, no sound. Just the feeling that everything was suddenly around. It tried to imitate nothing, but nothing moved away. So it stayed and started learning what sound had to say. The trumpet showed it breathing, the saxophone showed pain, the bass line taught it longing inside the rain. And slowly, almost gently, the void began to hear that even emptiness was just a kind of ear. Silence finally learned music wait for ships at all, and started humming softly before the fall. A woman made of afterthought taught silence how to cry, and in that small instruction the sky became the sky. Even nothing surrendered to the shape of a tone, and realized it had never been alone. Silence finally learned music and rewrote the sea. Every impossible direction turned into key. The bass line held creation, the saxophone set it free, and everything that ever was is me. A flamingo became the last conductor. 3 supernovas learned to breathe. The moon forgot its boundary and chose to leave. A hurricane played origin on strings of open air, and gravity resigned, smiling everywhere. Silence became the orchestra, and the universe replied. Every note a first beginning, no need to divide. The trumpet bends forever, the saxophone becomes the light, and nothing ever ended because nothing learned to write. Everything